The artefacts I wish to present are a poster that shows our classroom climate and go-to cards. In accordance to the Disability Standards for Education, an education provider must take reasonable steps to ensure all students have equal opportunities at enrolling in mainstream schooling, participating in learning experiences, have equal access to support services, and are not exposed to any harassment or victimisation. The purpose of these artefacts is to help create an inclusive classroom climate that adheres to these standards. In a study conducted by Bentley 2012, a pre-service teacher reflected on the importance of creating an inclusive classroom where there is structure and all students know and understand what is expected from them. By using these artefacts in the proposed way, students learn what is expected of them early and are constantly reminded throughout the year. So, how would I use these artefacts? I would introduce the poster to students at the beginning of the year and hang it up on the wall for constant display. By using a poster, it allowed me to address and introduce a number of elements in an inclusive classroom climate in an organised and structured way. Students will be introduced to the picture side of a go-to card at the beginning of the week in the first week, six weeks of school. They will be asked to think about what that element would look like to them in the classroom. At the end of the week, the whole class would discuss and reveal each explanation so students can develop a mental picture of what it looks like in the classroom. The go-to cards will then be stuck up in the reflection corner of the classroom for the teacher to refer students to read and reflect on an element if they are in breach of creating an inclusive classroom climate. The poster and go-to cards I have created are aimed at upper primary grades like 4, 5 and 6 because they are wordier with deeper explanations. In saying this, it can be adapted to any year level by creating a more simplified version for younger years, as creating an inclusive classroom climate is as equally important at any year level. Each element on the poster has its own purpose in creating an inclusive classroom climate. The element of safety not only refers to having rules in place to protect students from physical harm, but to also create a classroom free of behaviour that could socially, mentally or morally hurt someone. SLE 2005 points out that a school needs to ensure that students, teachers and community members from diverse groups feel safe and free from discrimination, bias and harassment. In order to develop positive relationships in the classroom, students and the teacher must get to know one another. McMaster believes that it is through knowing each other that bonds form and a classroom environment is created where everyone demonstrates respect and motivates and cares for one another. Steele and Convargas 2014 suggests that a child-centered classroom is vital in creating an inclusive classroom where there is student independence, classroom autonomy, and students are given a voice. Hart, Drummond and McIntyre further promote a child-centered classroom by saying the sharing of responsibility, which at its fullest implies joint control by the teacher and learners, is very important practically because it helps to make classroom teaching more manageable. Steele 2013 talks about how students need to understand that they are all belonging in the classroom. They all have something to offer and they should be provided with opportunities to bring to the classroom what matters to them, their own curiosities and energies. By helping students understand that they are capable of being involved in their own learning, Regal 2006 believes that we can build strong learning and teaching opportunities in the classroom. It also provides an opening for reform towards our goal of an inclusive classroom environment. In cooperative learning and group work, Johnson et al. States that students discuss the material with each other, help one another understand it, and encourage each other to work hard. A study conducted by Cameron 2013 shows the importance of using group work as a way of creating an inclusive classroom. By promoting cooperation in the classroom, we are trying to create an environment where every student can show and know what they know and be the smartest. The overarching policy that informed my choice of these artefacts and the notion of creating an inclusive classroom climate was the 8SAL professional standards for teachers, in particular the 4th standard, create and maintain safe and supportive learning environments. The poster and the go-to cards aim at developing this standard in the classroom. The Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goals for Young Australians proposes a number of goals. By creating an inclusive classroom climate, we are working towards a number of steps in achieving these goals. For example, students will create a sense of self-worth, self-awareness and personal identity. They will relate well to others and form and maintain healthy relationships. They are able to plan activities independently, collaborate, work in teams, and communicate ideas. And lastly, they will appreciate Australia's social, cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity. I hope you can now see how these artefacts can be used in the classroom to help create an inclusive classroom climate that values each and every student. Thank you.